to the grand finals of Penang Debating Championship 2016. My name is Vinod and I'll be your chair today. Judging alongside me is first Mr. Daniel Mark from BAC, Ms. Archana from HELP, Mr. Patrick Chow from Sri Lanka, Ms. Felice Wong from Taylors, Ms. Sarah Cho also from Sri Lanka, Ms. Claudine from KDU, and the timekeeper will be Mr. Dave from Little India. Debating the grand finals on site opening government is WSDC TA. Opening opposition WSDC DS. Closing government is NUS Rogue Squadron. And closing opposition WSDC WK. The motion debated with a very long input house supports the implementation of the virtual prison system. Without further ado, and before we begin, I'd like to ask the members of the floor to keep their discussions, be cheers or cheers to bare minimum. And if you would answer any calls whatsoever, please leave the hall and do so to give respect to the debaters that will be debating. Okay, so without further ado, let's start the grand finals. Test. In this holy month of Ramadan, some Muslims will complain that they starve or don't get food. Prisoners always starve. Throughout the 6 years that their sentence has placed them within prison, they get low sanitation, low protection from guards or other abuses that happen within the prison system. We think a virtual prison is a much preferable reality to the horrible prisons we face in our everyday lives. What model does opening government support? 3 prongs. The first is that we support basic needs met in real life, as to say it is not a virtual reality, but we're actually meeting their basic needs. This means with the provision of food, this can be the most nutritious food. It will taste excellent and will give them toilets and exercise that they can use on a regular daily basis when they want to. Secondly, we will make it as well. The Oculus Rift is mandatory, and this is mandatory. This means it replicates your reality and the perfect version of this reality. This would mean that you go through prison life normally, in fact, but the difference is that you so sentence in court to prison for say 30 years, you will face that exact prison sentence in its purest form. But thirdly, this means you're still allowed to go for community work and go through rehabilitation, but all this within the confines of the Oculus Rift. Throughout the 30 years you are put in that prison cell, you cannot ever leave the room. Our stance is that we think that it is a better system than status quo. My first metric towards telling you why we should support the implementation of this virtual prison is that firstly, it decreases the harms that prisoners face. Secondly, how it aids in the rehabilitation process. And thirdly, how we make better lives for prisoners and prison guards within that jail cell. The first, why prisons are currently toxic for society. So firstly, it's about the general environment of these prisons. There's extremely low public funding and support for this. The activities or social goods that you're allowed to do are minimal. So facilities, be it sporting facilities or communal work, people are extremely reluctant to let prisoners get out of their jail cells simply because of the stereotype and stigmatization onto them. No thank you. There's extremely low attention to things such as rehabilitation. This is why prisons rarely ever have doctors or have regular medical checkups. In fact, no thank you. The percentage to get a disease in prison if you entered without one is extremely high. There's extremely low attention towards these things. Social mood dictates that prisons are horrible and that somehow criminals deserve this. In fact, more money goes towards militarizing prisons instead. Society shoot that man, he raped somebody, he killed somebody, he stole. No thank you. They didn't know the backstory was he had to steal. This means, given these enormous stereotypes and that racial minorities are sent for solitary confinement, when in fact we would have sent them for medical checkups instead, or insanity checkups instead, they are not. But secondly, authorities play no small part in this. No thank you. They are either bigoted or corrupt because they get extremely extremely low wages within status quo, there's a higher tendency for them to be corrupt because they might see certain benefits, financial benefits within criminal syndicates, or they don't report. There's extremely low regulation of sexual abuse. In fact, sometimes they even cover up instances that abuse exists. Two reasons for this. Number one, because they were either complicit in this process and they will be faulted for this. Or number two, because doing a lot of paperwork is hard and they are lazy. Thirdly, communication. No, thank you. We will say at best there is no beneficial interaction. At worst, interaction is harmful, and this is very likely. That becomes a problem when you put one hardened criminal in a room with somebody who might have been a victim of circumstance and have been forced to commit that crime. This means there is strong bullying and sexual violence that is not only not attended to, but this means a strong creation of gangs and competition between these gangs because they all want to ask each other out, right? This means gangs are all likely to monopolize resources in the provision of foods. Like, yeah, right, the Native American gang will get more food in that prison. No, it'll be the Americans or the white Caucasian people who do. No, thank you. And they penalize teaching. This is why it's extremely hard to regulate. In our world, what do we get? The comparative is that limited to no interaction is better because interaction is already toxic in its purest form. It's non-beneficial. This means no gangs, no chances to bribe, no need to militarize the prison forces, even if there is less social funding on the outside because society view prisons as being this nice hotel. This means we minimize, number one, the need for militarization and assault weapons because there'll be lesser prison breaks. You have your own Oculus Rift where you are satisfied there, and this means there's a low likelihood for violence and a lot of collateral damage. Even if you like to say they face no real human interaction and come out of the jail, culture shock, you will say it's okay because the interaction existing is already toxic. If you go inside the prison, not somebody evil, chances are you will go out evil. Before my second argument, yes.
If there's already no public support for these criminals, won't your society be more likely to hate these people to the point at which they leave jails because you take that much more money for them to pay for your very expensive population?
Yes, okay, I'll tell you why we saw stereotypes in this argument about rehabilitation. So currently it's extremely hard to achieve. Status quo shows that when you apply to gangs, you cannot opt out of gangs even after prison because snitching is not allowed. Punishments are punitive and not corrective. You're likely to be put in solitary confinement as opposed to medical assessments, which you actually need. The best case scenario is you become a victim of sexual assault and you start hating yourself because it's binary. You either become a predator or prey. This means even if you go through prison and face through no discrimination at all, a better alternative is still a virtual reality, which is a perfect replication of reality. Therefore, the minimizing of risk of this person being exposed to these harms. Rehabilitation is important because we think nobody is truly a criminal, rather they are victim of circumstances or they have mental disorders. What are the outcomes of this? And this is responding to 6 UI. The first is that we lower the likeliness of recidivism. So society has stereotypes currently premised on the fact that a lot of criminals come out and still commit crime or are very disconnected and unattached to society. We solve that minute where you do not get raped within prison. It is less likely for you to get beaten up within prison. This consequently decreases social stigmatization upon them. They're less likely to be violent, they're less likely to be shocked by human interaction, they're less likely to be scared and less likely to commit crimes. The final resource allocation. So given that political will is extremely limited and there's a finite amount of money that prisons get, it now becomes a lot easier to prioritize certain goods and what we should allocate towards prisoners. Instead of stretching our money wide on a variety but extremely thin allocations, it's better to invest a lot more money in lesser places. This means more money into the protection of prisoners or into the provision of salaries for prison guards. This means we get less likely to be corrupt within future. We think this is a lot of money we can take out from weaponizing or militarizing current prison guards. This policy not only reduces a lot of collateral damage that we only wish prisoners did not have to go through, it makes resource allocation easier and therefore easier for us to regulate that prison condition.
Don't speak too near to the mic. Yeah.
How's this?
Okay.
So I'm gonna go for
Yeah.
like this.
Okay.
That's alright. If Tariq thinks it's painful to fast, we think there's a much worse hell out there for a person person to be in a state of almost induced schizophrenia, where you do not know what is real, what is not, where you know for a fact, however, that the counselor you're speaking to, a fellow inmate that you're making friends with, none of them are real. The last 30 years of your life was a lie. We think that's a lot worse than the lies that they describe, and we reject the notion that prisons are bad. Because we say, if you have the resources to implement a whole new system of virtual reality, etc., at this point in time costs thousands of dollars, we can sure as hell use those kinds of resources to improve the prison system that we have, right? Which we don't think are really that bad. But what exactly do we support before I move on to my argument? We support pro-prisoner groups lobbying for other more marketable changes, right? Rather than this virtual reality very expensive thing. We think lobbying for actual better treatment rather than making them seem like dehumanized robots that only need nutrition rather than food, right? But let's talk about 2 points from the other before moving on to my argument. They say that the current prison system is violent due to the prison wardens and the stigma is bad. That's non-contentious, right? I'm not going to say that. I understand that prisons are not exactly the best place, right? But here's the thing, right? If they are only ever aware of virtual reality, right? If they only ever have that headset on forever, your same prison wardens are probably going to make them still just as vulnerable as before, right? Because there's still people that are in positions of power. There are still people that have the same sexual desires that victimized their prisoners in the past. We think that they are unaware of their reality around them. That's when it's a whole lot worse for treatment of them, right? They can't even give evidence in court when they are released from prison later on because they didn't know what was going on. People will just say, you are only in virtual reality. Your testimony is useless, right? That's when you probably was off. No, thank you. But the second thing, they say that rehabilitation is ineffective because of gangs and because of violence. And we reject that notion, right? We think that that gang issues are only in terms of have very maximum security prisons where you are already probably a part of a gang. We think that other portions of prison, right, minimum security, medium security, right, all of those places are where rehabilitation is still very effective. If these people believe that your counselor is actually looking out for you, as opposed to a pre-recorded voice that is simply there to generically answer when they ask you, how is your day, how are you feeling, right? We think ultimately then rehabilitation is worse off when they do not feel like they are human beings. But before I move on to my argument,
if it's true that you cannot testify in court, is it better that the need to go to court decreases because interaction on the outside is minimal to none?
yeah, but you still have your prison wardens there, right? You're not going to leave them in a place where they are inaccessible. Just because you say they cannot access them, we also tried, right? We also tried to say prison wardens cannot rape prison inmates. It didn't mean that it stopped them, but once now they can't tell who it was, they can't testify. But here's the first argument, right? How this worsens rehabilitation. Because we think rehabilitation should be something like criminals learning to reintegrate into society, repenting for the crimes that they have committed, right? But how does this process come in the side of government? We think that there are 3 things happen, right? Well, first of all, there's a constant monitoring that they are aware of as we are filming through your CCTVs, where you do not feel like you have the ability to be emotionally vulnerable, right? Because people are watching you if you cry because you miss your mom, right? People are watching you if you break down and such. We think this is me, but not less likely to be self-reflective. No, thank you, because their enemies are unseen, right? They do not know who is out there watching them. And it may seem slightly irrational, but that's the thing, right? Oftentimes, solitary confinement breeds irrationality, where you no longer have control over your actions, and most people can only survive like 3 days before becoming almost permanently mentally scarred. They are proposing 30 years of that solitary confinement. We don't think your virtual reality friends are going to be any help to them because they know they're not you. No, thank you. But the second thing, right, that happens, right, is that there's no real human interaction, right? So you're never going to maybe have proper conversations that are going to maybe prepare them for the outside world. They say that culture shock is not a big deal, but it is, right? For a lot of people that have been stuck in iron for a long time, a lot of people that are stuck in solitary confinement for a long time, they find it very difficult to trust people when they're outside in the world. Add that to the stigma of having a black mark on your record or being an ex-convict. We think that's a horrible mix if you want that person to be. We need to look a lot further than what goes on within that prison because we can at least try to fix those things. But what we can't control is the way that they interact with other people, right? Because there are no laws for helping people to be better people outside, and that's when it's worse. But the third thing, though, is why rehabilitation is worse. So no, thank you. If people are just horrible treatment, right, and they receive a constant paranoia, a constant loneliness, right? We think that they're not going to feel as if they deserve a particular punishment. They're going to be thinking, I am excessively punished, right? And why is this so bad? Because you want someone who believes that they are If they aren't as such, right, you're not going to get any kind of participation in your rehabilitation. We understand, of course, that sometimes that is true in our side, but at least if the treatment is slightly less horrible, at least I have some faith that I can find a refugee, probably they'll be more open to rehabilitation. No, thank you. But the second thing, what are the societal implications of this perception of prisoners, right? Because what they do is very dangerous. What they tell people is, if you are a prisoner or possibly an ex-prisoner, you do not deserve real human interaction. You don't deserve real tasty food. You only deserve nutrition. You don't deserve friends. You don't deserve privacy. Understand, no thank you, that these are already very prevalent notions. People already think that prisoners are pretty much subhuman. But when you enforce this even through your prison system, when you make it legal to do these things to them, right, where at least in our side, we will try and be like, look, your prison orders, no thank you, are illegal and you should be doing something about it. The harm is when you release them from jail, right? And the perceived normalness of treating ex-convicts and convicts as subhumans leaks into the way that they are treated in real life. And this is bad because the biggest problem with prison is not the treatment within it, it's when they need to reintegrate into society. Because the biggest problem that you have to deal with is whether or not they will recommit those crimes. If people are led to believe more likely that they are not human beings, they're not going to accept them as a part of the society simply because they do not feel as if they are human beings, right? They're going to treat them as you treat them in the prison. And that's when you probably have more than committing those crimes, more than opting into your prison system. But the last thing, right? We don't think people are going to perceive this as a justifiable punishment. We think people are going to see this as like they have it, right? Where they're just in virtual reality, I can't even afford that on my own. And this means you have a lot of fear modeling. If people cannot understand that this is real rehabilitation, because what really are they doing? They're just talking to someone on a computer screen, right? This means that if you're going to have people that are afraid of these people, so not only are they not going to want to reintegrate these people into society, we think you're going to have more rich people that push money into things like public prosecution to make sure these criminals get longer sentences when they can't even be sentenced well, or pushing more money into worse treatments, right, for these prisoners or ex-convicts, because obviously, if they are subhuman, it must be pretty much legal if I discriminate them as such. We understand prison is already bad, but at least in our side, we are able to use the political capital that we have in a better way that is more accepted by both convicts and outsiders. Hell is not a place you go to once you die if you're a bad person. Hell is a place you go to when you commit a crime. In our world, your virtual friend will tell you, it's been 30 years, I'm going to wave you goodbye, go meet your own friends, go live your own life. In their world, there'll be no one waving you. You will live with a broken arm, you will live with a tattoo as a part of a gang culture, you will live probably sad as if you have to supplement a horrible reality with a fake reality, you would rather that be the reality. Because the comparison is made, it's not one where you have friends, it's not one where you get good food, it's not one where you get human interaction. It's one where you're interacting with criminals, one where you're interacting with violent people, it's one where you're interacting with guards who have an inferiority complex. We would say that's a reality we are far better off. People are going to explain two other arguments, which is why we think we'll increase the support and funding of the system, and the second, how we minimize the suffering for people who are impact and they won't be a shell of themselves. Okay, so you have to first prove that you're affecting the life of the person rather than facilitating integrity, right? Because if you life in the future, we have a mother, we have a family, we have a community, but the life in prison doesn't replicate the reality is going through. So if our fake reality is closer in proximity to the life we were reflected, that is a reality that is less likely to make it crazy. Two arguments. First, we will say that public support and funding for our model will be far greater. Why is this? Public funding is really low because people think they are harming criminals, gang culture is really high, they are either people who commit sexual violence or they are victims of it. All these are intrinsic to prison populations. In our world, when these people have none of this limited interaction, we are more likely to see them as individuals who are not prisoners but rather rehabilitated. So there will be more integration programs when they come to your office, your job will be less demand actually. Maybe we won't solve everything, but it's far better than God. The second argument, a lot of people don't even deserve to be preserved. African Americans don't deserve to be preserved. They're probably only there because there's a higher sentence, more crack, more racial profile, more research. You can't get them all research, right? It's really hard. There's no work system. You probably won't make the experience of prison for them better. There's one more reason we are absorbing ourselves of the guilt of privilege. If the prison sentence is less replicative of the horrible reality that prison, we are doing one more justice to the African American community, one more justice to transgenders who are victims of circumstances. Because this debate is not only about people who deserve to be in prison, but also people who do not deserve to get anything in this reality that replicate the life they would have lived is better. So if we can't get them out of prison, we sure as hell can make it a full life for them.
So yeah. The point at which we antagonize our public against one of the most vulnerable actors in our society, we lose it because we will never be able to access the same structures that we used to have before because they were not like the same individuals that chose to put us in jail. They were not like people who do not like us now. But we stand going to a number of things. First, I'm going to ask 3 questions to give response to what we are. The first question. Which side provides better prisons? We say that we do and we will use the money that we go to this to provide the best prison to these individuals. So what this means is we'll punish the gangs, we'll punish these offenders every time they try to act up, at least the other people around them will see this as an active punishment and caused by the state if you do something that's wrong. And if anything, internalize that as a lesson as to what happens when you do act up and what happens when you do try to hurt others. But here's a comparative. We see that even if it's not perfect, it is real and it is much more meaningful to the person. And he knows every experience he had in that prison is something that no one else can take away from you. It's something that only he can manufacture. And when you leave prison, you will remember everything that happened before. And if anything because of that, if prison was awful, that's why it's more likely for him to go, then his actions have the worst consequences and he will never be able to come back from them. But no, thank you. We see that if there is some fear that is practical. Even if it isn't perfect, it's okay. Because as long as people know that prisons are bad things, we think that they're also an awful place to be in. So in normal African Americans who will be the victims, we rather incentivize them stay within the society and try their best to not go to prison, try their best to fight the fight and make the most of themselves of controlling the system. If you see that these prisons are so good, you have no fear. They want to destroy them because they believe there are no actual consequences to their actions, and they can get away with the crimes that they are not to commit. No thank you. The second question, do prisoners want this reality? We see that sure, even they could want it, after you leave, you're seen as a different person and someone you cannot relate to entirely. The life that you think has been will not be seen as not by the people around you because they don't share those same experiences. If that's what's happening in your world, they're less able to walk into your social structures because we are more likely to exclude them, when we're more afraid of them, when we don't understand them, when we think they're that much more different. If anything, because of this, they're more likely to walk back into your bed because that's the only place, that's the only people that can relate to them, and they went through the same experience, even they went through the same experience. No, thank you. The not going to be able to be himself. Think about it. If the individuals who antagonize him his entire life, the white majority that oppressed him and his family, these are the people that will be monitoring him 24/7, will be deciding whatever he does, will know if he tries and if he breaks down, if he tries to reflect, if he tries to preach God, he cannot be himself anymore. Because he shows any sign of weakness, he's showing that weakness to white people who see him, his entire life. In normal people will be paranoid because these individuals will forever deny him the ability to reflect, deny him the ability to create that right person. No thank you. Will that be the right person? Will that be better? We say that if it is darker, if you are much more isolated, and you know the conditions are worse, that one is better for you, easier for you to rehabilitate. Because the point at which you are suffering, you do realize that what you did was an awful thing and you deserve these things. And that's what we need business to understand. And their actions are awful things that they deserve to be punished for. If they don't learn that, there's no reason for them to want to be bad people. No thank you. The argument that I'm going to read you is why you overburden for your plans.
So if you're punishing these people for gang violence and all the things you see are corrective mechanisms, you would send them to solitude and schizophrenia and your world. So how are you different and better than us?
So in your world, they're only going to be seeing things that they think are pigments in their imagination, people that they don't believe are real. We see that schizophrenia is a lot more likely to happen in your world. But if they do have schizophrenia, they try to mitigate that by being with counselors. The difference is we want them to know that this experience is real. Because the pain that they're going to take to them from this experience to the real life is what will help shape them in living. It's what will help shape them in dealing with other people. If they now know that there's a pain consequence of being a bad person, there's a better experience than not doing that any consequences at all. No thank you. Why are you overburdening poor countries? The first level is can poor countries opt into this? We say only slightly because in normal you're going to abolish all cases and the only means to correct these people are to do themselves. The extremely and lot of public will fall. So given this, only the worst crimes that are committed will be allowed to be sent to these jails. How will this then affect the convicts? We say firstly, victims of minor crimes will go through so much more public backlash because they don't go to jail. Given that we cannot send them and it's too expensive. In normal, we don't see these people as being rehabilitated. We still see them as the most evil individual who deserve to have some form of retribution. That's if we have more cases of vigilance. That's also if we have much more exclusion, and this is much more awful. The people who do have more like to be victims. The individuals are only awful in this because of the short-term benefit. Even that, they will forever be stigmatized for doing that thing. But thank you. But the second thing, that all the judges in normal will over-punish these individuals to compensate. So if we actually believe that African Americans are real drugs, and we know they're not going to go to jail if you don't give them a minor sentence, they'll send them to jail for the rest of their lives in our world. They will never allow them any of the public interaction they had before. Because this is the only way their prestige form of justice to be able to play out. That's why in normal your victims will forever go to jail and won't be able to be interacted. No thank you. People that are less likely to be the ones who face the actual punishment. The very people who are less likely to be victims are the ones who are more likely to be able to get away with their crime. That's a very wrong message to society. If we abuse our power, we can abuse our privilege. But the funny thing is, if the state really never cared about the minorities, and in society they need the worst life, they want to open to that treatment now, they commit the worst kinds of crimes to be able to opt into that system. So in normal, a murder and rape and the worst kinds of things will be the only things we can do to get to jail. They just do those things in order for them to be taken into these jails. The comparative is that now for these people who are the most victimized, you hurt the reputation of all other minorities that want to conform to a system and they want to be criminals. They are trying to go and minimize the harm put on them. If these people are not going to be stigmatized and threats to the idea that they are awful and they're much more dangerous, then it's even worse for them in your world. Even they're more likely to, if the comparative is that they're more likely to opt into smaller crimes anyway. And that's why they have less victims to hurt, less victims that are also going to be traumatized for the rest of their life.
Yes. Good.
All extensions of the topic into my speech, all rebuttals and arguments. First, what's best for how VR creates tailored reform for these prisoners when we talk about what provides better prison reform systems. Secondly, what is the system harm to these prisoners vis-a-vis prison bank violence. Third, how to change the public perception of prisoners for better, and why this is so important. And lastly, why the job design means that you increase the respect for prison wardens and you create a better quality of warden that's less prone to abuse. But before that, two clarifications. First, the argument that came up was that people don't want a system, a VR system, because they didn't consent to it. I got a proposition in response. Most of these prisoners don't want to opt into a prison system either. And the point at which we recognize that these prisoners are going to prison because they lose their autonomy, we also have to accept that we are fighting the debate in which these individuals' needs are secondary to the needs of society and trying to rehabilitate them in society. Secondly, this idea that judges can be shitty. We think that judges can always be shitty and increase sentences, but that's not an argument for reducing or limiting the number of reforms that can happen. Rather, it's an argument for ensuring that you work with better judges, or the more technological advanced judges. But then, we think that technologically advanced technologically mature judge should be recognized. And why do we think we create tailored reform for these prisoners better? Because we think, and our extension is, in the world in which we could tailor the kinds of worlds that prisoners live in beyond the four grey walls of the prison, i.e. the VR system, i.e. the Fitbit, then you're creating a world in which you have a greater degree of control and calibration, which is great for the prisoner. Why do we think this? We think that the reason why we have a Fitbit and an Oculus Rift in the input slide is ultimately because we think that there's a degree of monitoring that goes on for these prisoners. We think that kind of monitoring means that you're able to check violent tendencies that these prisoners have and also respond to various kinds of stimuli. Why do you think that's important? Because we think that what is more likely to happen and the prop model is that we don't just create a world, but we create a world in which tailors the punishment or tailors the rehabilitative process towards these prisoners. We think that's great for many of these prisoners, firstly because if they want certain things like the Coursera courses, we can give it to them. They can feel like they're going to university every day. If they great education prison system, ultimately because we think they have very little time with their spouse or kids, then we can sync up the VR system to connect real time with their family and get them to interact on a more frequent basis. We think that kind of thing works with those prisoners. But in the event that you want to go after a prisoner because you felt that there's a family shooting, like there's a serial murder in the previous debate movement, then great, we can create a living hell for him. That's what VR is created for, and that's what the four walls of the prison can't really accommodate for. I think that the comparative is that prisoners interacting with other prisoners, the line that came out from opening opposition, is far less helpful for your rehabilitative process than the world in which you're able to interact with simulated people that can guide you to the narrative that you want to achieve, like better priests, like better prison models that you can create as an artificial intelligence, or you can create by syncing up the VR set to those individuals and linking them up to the world. For that,
if prisoners' consent never mattered, why not allow society to decide the way they are punished, the way they are tortured, because they were victimized by them?
So we think that the prisoners' consent don't matter, but public consent also doesn't really matter. What matters is the way we rehabilitate those prisoners, and we think that we do it better if we're able to respond to their stimuli, right? So we think, secondly, as a social benefit, the VR system is a more efficient way of facilitating home visits, right? I've already hinted to you that you can sync out the VR system to those individuals or those or the spouses of kids or those prison people. We think it's great because you eliminate the problem where you cannot connect your incarcerated father to your child, and you can, because you're able to do it more often, that child is less likely to suffer from a broken family and less likely to suffer from the social harms that in consequence. Therefore, we think that the greater degree that comes to the VR system, that is control, cooperation, is great for the prisoner and their innocent families and the ability to ensure that they don't come into broken families. risk of gang violence and police arising from those things. We think our extension is that the VR system is also reduces gang violence because you are targeting the actual hatred projected towards the prison system. In many instances, the reason why people are in prison is not just because it's best for their rehabilitation, but also because you don't want them to integrated in society, right? So there often is a mismatch between the kinds of rehabilitation that you want and the kinds of rehabilitation that's best for them on the ground. In the VR system, the kind of gang violence is less likely to improve because you're not able to create a world in which people are no longer angry at the gangs, angry at the prison system anymore, which means that they are more likely to create the gangs in the first place, to rise up against those prison systems. At the point where you are able to succeed in doing so, we think that's incredibly important. Ultimately, because you're changing the narrative of the prisoner's hate towards gang, in which one in which he has to cooperate in the new world that the prisoner has created in order to live a life that's worth living for this incarceration. Thirdly, we think when public perception of prisoners occur, we do it better. The president argues that the increased cost to acquire the VR system needs to create public is that this VR system because we have increased on it once, but we think that there is more compelling reason to reform prisoners. Ultimately, because so this means that it's quite common when it's even impoverished countries like Nigeria are looking at these solutions like at VR solutions in trying to alleviate the system. But we think the real problem with prison reform is because people perceive prisoners exactly the same way Siddhartha and Deborah told you. Because people perceive them as being violent, as being people not worthy of rehabilitation or reform or better welfare. The reason that means that there is a huge legislative issue on the ground because people don't bother to pass laws to pump more money to prisons, but actually the legislation on tough and crime legislation in many instances. What changes on our side? At the point where there's less interaction within these prisoners and they're stuck on the PR itself, it means that they're perceived as being more docile, which means you can propagate to the media that these individuals are more deserving of more prison substance. For all these reasons, go with the side. Closing up.
Closing opposition will be the first house to extend that this debate is not only about prisoners, it's about the fight against crime and how to give societal support in order for us to make sure that we could cooperate in the fight to pursue justice. We will be the first house to extend my perspective. I will make two new extensions. Number one, we think that their policy will be perceived as a form of punishment that will result in less cooperation from the public because the government policy in your for opening opposition will make it a lot better for you. Before that, I have two departments to a city. Number one, they say that if we have technology to detect the tendency of violence of individuals, if you can have that technology, we can have it as well, right? But we that is the virtual aspect of the punishment that we want to disagree. So you can also say we have control, and we can get control as well. If you have that process, you can say that the prisoners are so big. You support the food, you support all the regulations, you support CCTV 24/7. Those things are big, but we disagree to the virtual aspect of the policy. Secondly, they say, oh, prisoners are gun culture, and they say prisoners are angry before they do a lot of bad things. But he contradicted it when the first thing he said in his speech was, this is okay taking a living hell for individuals if they are so bad, if they are so malicious. If they are okay with creating a lot of worst experience for individuals, then you want to have to defend gun culture in your work as well. And people are angry with the state for making them face those horrible things as well. Sit down. And they say, oh, media will portray these individuals as good people. We know who controls the media, but who don't believe in expanding. I will expand that in my argument because of how you see the situation. Before that, I think that was opening government. Maybe opening government is a bit convenient, right? If they say the situation is going to be so big in this virtual reality, then you will achieve your rehabilitation. If they don't talk to your mom and your friends, tell Firstly, there was no analysis how what to your mark and that's going to make the situation better. This includes Penang rehabilitation. Secondly, we say if the state is so racist and going to make the situation worse for individuals, then we just replicate the same experience in this virtual reality as well. So it's not the comparison in this debate. If the state is racist, it will be racist at the both sides. The debate has to assume that the state is reasonable and then we can expect the implications of your policy. See, now I will this later. So first, how do we use the fight against right? So we think people want to see criminals suffer and they want to see the pain that criminal face. It's unfortunate, but people do derive satisfaction and closure and why they see criminals are punished. People don't believe in virtual experience as why not the victims these experiences are not virtual. The horrors of the crime, the loss of family members, those things are not virtual. And it's going to increase the punishment with a virtual experience that people don't believe as a form of punishment in the first place. The horrors that they face when the blood stains in their hand and they see their family members dying in front of them, and the only closure that you're going to give them is to make sure that insanity that is great and the how people wouldn't believe it. But at the heart of this is where closure operation is going to extend. Individuals will be less likely to report to authorities and the point in which they feel the authorities are carrying the just punishment for individuals. So victims make victims that are stronger. They are more likely to take things in their own hand. They're going to fight the rapists and might cause a lot more harm at the end of the day. Because they don't believe in punishment. They don't believe in punishment of state. They will try to make management of their own and fight the government and deal with crime. If the competition in our world, people know that these individuals they get caught and punished proportionally, and at least in that perspective, they want to get more incentives to report. They can now on more crimes, so there's more information and more cooperation from the public. Sit down. Secondly, we say we will reduce funding in police forces. These, for example, like NYPD and APD, these departments are heavily reliant on individuals' funding, right? So we say in your world, when people don't believe in police forces, they think even if they do fund the police force are just going to send them to a virtual reality. There's no way people going to fund you, so you have to don't get weapons and we think how to cannot use certain areas, rural areas, for example, because we have lack of resources. In those instances, you have to defend when the fight is not less effective. And we think if the comparison, if some people do suffer, we are okay, as well as the majority and the majority people in the country don't suffer on the community. What are we doing?
Yeah, so we just support prisoners being beaten up, sexually assaulted with no remedy because it increases public support for reporting or makes them harder to report.
There's a scale, right? So we would say that we would remain status quo because war policy would take the perspective of society and it will make it worse. That's not our view. So how will empower discrimination against ex-convicts? Opening opposition did a good job when they said these people will find this horrible treatment. What we will explain what are these horrible treatments. For example, they will not allow a loan for you to get admission, or they will make sure that the housing policies become so exclusionary in nature, or they will embark in hiring practices that they won't hire the ex-convicts in the companies. What are the harms of it? If people don't have jobs, they don't have economic mobility, they are more likely to join them in your work, they are more likely to revisit the prison because they feel like they don't have the only way for them to get money is to commit crime, in order to harm individuals and to hurt them. You think the comparison in our world, yes, people are discriminated currently, but that's the scale. If people discriminated less in our world, as long as you get discriminated less, we are fine with that if it makes a better life for them. So we will defend, yes, maybe it's slightly horrible treatment in the prison, but better world outside the prison. Secondly, in worst case scenario, individuals just beat up ex-convicts because they don't believe that these people are already rehabilitated. So they just beat up whenever they see an African American because he was like consuming cocaine before. In this world, members of the house, we think that's why you will amplify the discrimination that you want to reduce. So the African American people who are wrongly convicted, once they get out of prison as well, they will be discriminated even more. So they will get wrongly convicted in the first place. We regret that they will suffer in the prison, but once they go out of prison, they will suffer less. In your world, they will suffer more because society doesn't believe that they have been rehabilitated and they have been punished as how they should be. So closing operation is the first one to say that we would rather live in a world where prisons might be horrible if it make people cooperate with the government in the fight against crime, and people will be more likely to establish better in our crowd workers.
Well, not only did closing down severely under-addressed Collins Fund extensions, once he said that any advanced technology and monitoring within our system, we can do it too. What started saying is that the high cost of the prison system will attract a lot of backlash and only poor countries will never be able to afford this. While here and see kind of don't agree on the cost of the system, so there's clear inconsistency as to whether the government officer can afford reform or not. Last page, in contrast, instead, this is about that. Now, this is a great tournament. I'm enjoying myself. Let me go through 3 areas and show you why closing government is the only key that wins. Number 1, how we better improve for the individual as an individual. 2, how we better improve prison system reform. And number 3, how we improve society's reaction towards prisoners. I'll start the points around the building about it later. Right, first argument on individuals. Where this entire discussion is that the problem from mass prison system is that it doesn't help grow tailored individuals. A shout out to this right there. So, what the college gives you in 3 extensions. 1, we pointed out to you that not all prisoners are the same. And the important thing about the Oculus Rift, because I think it's fucking awesome, is that you change the inputs of the prison system, of the Rift, depending on the nature of the prisoner. So, if some people need more time, you can turn the program on for longer each day. If some people need more religious education, you can just change the program to talk more about modern attitudes. The advantage of the input prison system is that you are not able, within the comfort of the person's own self or discomfort, you can tailor the input that you see every day in and day out. This is important in our system because the counterfactual is having 1,001 different experts for every possible kind of thing. Something we presume once is probably not going to be fair. Colin Furman told you a second extension that the point of social interaction can also be tailored in the Oculus Rift. If you haven't made a massively multiplayer online RPG before, this is exactly how the Oculus Rift works. You can sync up this thing to see other users of the Oculus Rift if the prison system thinks they are ready to start talking to normal people. You are able to sync up a poor incarcerated father with a his baby back home. You are able to give people several courses in real time so you can pick up courses so you can get jobs and not go back to crime outside. The degree of interaction can be tailored depending on how ready the prisoner is. We also started to do another extension which is also becoming part that a generic voice playing to you in Oculus Rift is better than your damn reader and your canteen table when prisoners are searching for new role models to give them new guidance in life. All these arguments really need to be addressed. Who addressed it? Okay, that all reality is fake, and once the classes come off, that shit is fake. 2 responses. 1, solitary confinement and prison rates are just as insane and just as crazy, and shout out to OG. And even they are also supporting those, they've never proven a clear path to prison before, and also they do so now. Second thing, the one thing about VR input is that if we need to, we can always change the VR input over time to be gradually more realistic, culturalizing the prisoners slowly as they approach the end of the prison term towards more reality. So this is the advantage of tailored rehabilitation that only closing government brings you. But the third and rather obvious argument is that most prisoners don't actually want to remember their time in prison. So they won't go crazy because as long as in prison are the best memories in life. So a lot of the heart of prisoners suddenly finding the whole home to life is really overstated on the part of the off. So what we have is tailored rehabilitation and important one that yeah. Second extension here on prison reform and how we are do better in this regard. We agree with the closing opposition that the prison system is simplified, unfortunately, and reforms need to be a long and slow process. But how does our system better help essentially and advance reform? Colin gave you an additional extension. And actually, this is very obvious that anyone who's watching an Oculus Rift also can play recordings, like threat someone or something like that, play that. So the point about all input fees in the VR system is that they are recorded. This is very easy to figure out who the hell is using the prisoner because you can't find anymore. One of the big problems of the prison system is that you can't know when that is happening and who's doing it. This VR system doesn't really cost all that. The objections that you get from both houses are the following. Open option. Poor countries cannot afford this system. 4 responses. 1, access failure. 2, cost more low over time because virtual reality technology costs have decreased 17% over the past 5 years because takes a bit to manufacture. Number 3, when you put that many Oculus Rift systems in a single prison, you get economies of scale, which allows you to go original per unit cost per unit. And number 4, this is an argument for adopting any new technology at first, anything the government calls is costly. Yes,
when ex-convicts get education, house, and road to live, they are can pop up when for the gang culture when they came out of prisons, they are no longer dependent on the gang.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure I get the point in totality, so I'll try best about it. But the idea is this: when the VR system is what they know, and they go to they're like, oh, everything's like that, then they might go back to the gang. That is true. However, if you are able to spot criminals with this tendency in the prison and re-educate them, as long as we introduce them images of family, images of love, images of happy memories, then the likelihood that they will go back to the gang is much reduced in our side rather than outside of the house. What does closing do? Closing say that people will not report crimes anymore because they are afraid that prisoners will send to this crazy crushing system and the police won't get money. But it's just crazy because people will still report crimes because they are criminals. They don't want to get killed or something like that. At worst, if someone says that people will not report crimes, they just give a reward to individuals for turning these in. What we think is that if we can target rehabilitation and tailor the method on our side, we will reduce the need to spend so much money on reactive enforcement in the first place, which means and both say they will hit prisoners because also can actually do this. The reason why we are everything is much reduced incentive for society to hit on prisoners because of the flaws of the system. In fact, what we will feel really is that a lot of this political anger and motivation to increase spending on incarceration is because the prison system is really for everyone. We are removed that. So let's the closing extension that people will still have to viscerally punish people because they think the justice system has failed. There's 3 arguments against that. 1, this is an argument to break the railways, which we have moved past. But number 2, the law can adjudicate between competing tenets of justice like rehabilitation, punishment, and isolation. So we don't need to worry about saying like this anchor is the only sole motivation to want to punish. We want to balance that across with rehab and other things. But we also think the solitary confinement in a VR space is still a very visceral reminder that people cannot have confidence taken away. So that destroys CEO's material. So what we argue in totality in the end is that it's important to recognize that individuals in this system are not sons of a mess, but that every individual souls who need to be rehabilitated. And on the closing down suspension gives you that. We're very proud to propose.
Maybe prison is horrible. Maybe it's a place where we can mitigate the abuses, but there will still be horrors that opposition cannot run away from. But the extension between closing opposition is it doesn't matter how effective your virtual reality system is. It doesn't matter how great it is in dealing with the conditions that people have. If people don't buy it, if people don't feel satisfied and believe in the effectivity of the system, they will make life a hellhole for your prisoners. And that is a system that people cannot opt out of. The point is people don't believe in the rehabilitation that government across them. I have 3 points responses towards closing government to prove why they are out. The first thing they told us is that this is tailored treatment towards specific prisoners. My previous speaker already told you why we are still able to have this, only not on the extreme front. If you can identify people with religious knowledge, you can incentivize people to read books under our paradigm, right? Prisoners get lesser sentences for the number of books that they read within prison environments. These are all active measures that they already exist under our paradigm, and the technology to assume and detect the conditions of a person also exists. So we do not see that specific nuance in the virtual reality aspect. But even if there was one, because they told us to get a specific slides and increase the amount that's given to specific prisoners and decrease the amount for other prisoners. We think virtual reality is really harmful, not just because of opening up opposition's mental harms, but we think it's also harmful for creating a fake fake safe haven that will shatter at any point in time. And this is what closing opposition told you. You might be able to detect the tendency of a person, but you detect the tendency of a person irrespective of all the other factors that made him suffering. So he might have suffered trauma because his family didn't love him. He might have suffered trauma because of discrimination. But the point at which you give him a safe haven, you try to deconstruct a lot of these harms. When he leaves your jail system, he will still go back to that horrible family. He will still go back to that horrible community. They will invoke those tendencies again. You don't allow people to deal with the realities of their problem. You create a simulation that shatters when they leave that jail cell. When they leave that jail cell, they will still commit the harms that you talk about. It's a reality. The people that hate them, the communities that don't accept them, will still invoke all those tendencies that Colin and Lucas say are harmful. Have a seat. But secondly, this is abuse recorded, so abuse is less likely to happen. Well, we have CCTVs, and you know how guards delete the footage of CCTVs? They will do that too. So, you don't think there's a contention in this debate. It is still going to happen under your parties, now under both circumstances. Done with closing government. Let's look at opening government. I'm having a lot of fun with opening government. So, opening government try to exaggerate all the harms of precedent and they try to make it as beautiful as possible for this virtual reality system, which we think is to their detriment. Have a seat. First stakeholders is that it will be extremely beautiful scenario. You will see your family, you will see your mom, you will see your dad, you will see other people that treat you in such a great way. We have 4 responses. If it is such a beautiful, luxurious experience, the safe haven will not wash people of their criminal tendencies anyways. If you give them any suspension with their closing, by the way, if you give them a great situation to live in, they will still keep their tendencies. They'll be happy with their families in these areas. It will not change. Or secondly, they will detect that it's fake, right? Because not everybody comes from a great home. Not everybody comes from a great community. When you simulate a community that did not exist, you will pick a fake attachment that will not last under your paradigm. When that fake attachment does not last, you will go back to your community. When his real mom will dedicates him. When his real friend will still ostracize that person. And we do not see how opening government is going to solve this problem. A beautiful life for 30 years in jail will not fix it the point at which you leave jail and go back to the horrible things that forced you into that crime in the first place. The other thing that you could say is that,
So if the real world you speak about is really horrible and you love the virtual reality so much, wouldn't this prisoner be so much more incentivized to fight and leave this horrible world?
No, under our paradigm, he can't fight the fight with the world because you created a fake world for him that isn't real. How is he going to opt out of the horrible realities of the communities that he came from gave him? We don't understand that. But the thing that we said is that a lot of people will still enjoy your system, which means apart from schizophrenia for coping opposition slavery is probably a thing. But a lot of other people like psychopaths will just take it in. They go into prisons thinking they're superior individuals. They only respond to pain. They only respond active initiatives to stop them and change them as it is. So they will go into this luxurious safe haven. The opening government said they will take none of your treatment. They will take all this fake situation that the government is trying to force me into. It will be so beautiful, these people will endure it. They'll come out no different. We think pain is something that we do, correct, under our paradigm. But then they talk about minorities, right? Minorities are because the state officials are sent into jail for a long period of time are the same officials that will take the program. They will tell the African American, it's true, you are the reason why you committed that crime. You did not come from a position of underprivilege, you did not disadvantage in any circumstance. You should change. You create people who come out of jail conforming to racism. When people are structured under your paradigm, they won't say anything. When people are unfairly checked under your paradigm, they won't say anything. This is a rehabilitation that you told us is done by racist officials to brainwash individuals into believing that racism does not exist. But I want to remind the House, have a seat, of the 2 extensions that came from close opposition. The first thing that we told you is that it's extremely regrettable, but people need to be satisfied in order to give prisoners a conducive life pre and post jail. And it's not likely to happen now because the effectivity of this virtual reality system cannot be seen by people. Even if it's effective, even if it's horrible, it is not likely to be seen by individuals on the ground. The only piece of the process is that their relatives felt pain, their friends and families felt suffering. They saw blood happen when their friends were harmed. And these are all true things that they are likely to come out in their minds when they're treating the prisoner under your paradigm. What is it likely to do? We think even if they're worse, we have disproportionate punishments, it is still punishments nonetheless. We can try to mitigate the risks with religion. We can try to reduce it as much as possible. Even if some people are abused, it's unfortunate. But it comes with a punishment as well. And in rehabilitation, issue that is guaranteed. Because people believe in proportionality. People want a certain country's future. In your paradigm, when they don't think it's true, when they think it's a safe haven, like opening government says it is, they won't report. They'll beat your criminal up. They will try to fight a robber with a gun and get shot in the end because they don't think that sending them to the authorities is the justice that they are going to get.